Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the In11 podcast. I'm your host, Brendan Griffiths, and this week it is just me. So I'm the footballer who is coming on and showing you what it takes to be in the 11 at the highest possible level. Who is down in Australia, in Perth, Western Australia, playing for a club called Subiaco AFC. And I've been here for probably like half the year now. As we're approaching June, I got here in January and roughly about halfway through the season. So to kind of give the recap so far, the update of what's been going on, I know I posted an episode early on in the season kind of talking about my process of getting down here and coming down here. And I figured now I would probably share a little bit more about what's been going on during the season. And obviously, as you can see, based on the title of this episode, sort of some of the difficult things that have happened so far. And yeah, just share a little bit of what's been going on. So as I mentioned, signed in very early February. Actually, I got here in January, signed in very early February for my club. And I know at the time of this recording, it's going to come out in a couple weeks. At the time of this recording, we sit about seventh, I'm pretty sure, seventh in the table with about roughly half the season played. So definitely some results where, things could have gone our way and they didn't. But at the end of the day, it's an improvement on the club's performance last season so far. Obviously, we want to continue that. And I think it's a somewhat fair assessment of where we are kind of currently amongst the rest of the teams. Like I said, there's definitely games where things could have gone our way here and there. But again, that's kind of football, and that's the way just the game works sometimes. So yeah, so from a team perspective, kind of relatively happy, looking for more, certainly, but can be optimistic as we go into the second half of the season here. From an individual standpoint, I've been lucky enough and grateful enough to have played so far in every single match. I've actually been lucky enough to start every match that I've been available for and played in. And I have a couple of goals to my name and assists. I've also played in a multitude of different positions. I think I spoke about this in the last episode, but in the preseason, there's like a preseason tournament we play in. I played the center of the park, center midfielder. I played on the wing. I played as we kind of switched formations a little bit. I played as an outside midfielder as well. As we went into the season, we went more into a 4-4-2 with a diamond in the midfield, and I played kind of on the outside of that diamond. So I guess like a central midfielder / outside midfielder, depending on kind of how you look at it. I also have played a couple games at fullback when we had some different players out with injuries, suspension, stuff like that. So it's kind of been a typical season in that regard. I did the same thing when I was in Germany. I played a handful of games in the center, played a handful of games right back, handful at left back. So it's just something that I've become kind of accustomed to in my career. And I don't really want to say I don't really necessarily have an opinion on it one way or the other, I guess is the best way to put it. I think when all the dust settles, I just enjoy being on the field. I just want to be on the field any chance that I can get. So if that means playing any number of different positions, then I'm fine with that. But it's definitely hard kind of bouncing around different positions and getting used to training somewhere and doing something different. And sometimes it happens like mid-game. And again, I'm not complaining because I want to be on the pitch. So that's really my only priority. So I guess that's kind of where the positive of it always, I lean towards that, because I think for me, becoming just an overall and well-rounded good footballer has allowed me to be in a situation where coaches feel comfortable and trust me enough to put me in multiple different positions, where that's not always the case with a lot of different footballers. And yeah, sure, is there an element of a lack of really exceptional characteristics in one specific position? Sure, but again, and for me too, like, I'm the type of player, I just want to do what I can to help the team and help the team win. So if that means doing a job that's a little bit different or a little bit maybe not what I'm used to, it's part of the challenge of football and part of why I like it. So I'm certainly not complaining at all in that regard. And I think this specific season and this team that I've been a part of, I kind of appreciate that that change in what's been happening position wise, because I think it kind of shows that there's a level of trust that they have in me, and I want to kind of try and honor that and reward that, I guess, or reciprocate that trust to the best of my ability when it comes to what I can do on the field. So overall, there's been ups and downs in terms of my performance, in terms of the team's performance, and I think that's to kind of be expected when you go into a season with a team. And I think it is something that, there were one or two games, a couple of games where I felt like I kind of struggled with that and had some of those same doubts that crept in, where I had a bad performance and then you start to kind of spiral downwards a little bit and think how important it is and how important the game is and how important how much pressure you put on yourself to try and play well. And when you don't, then it's like, again, that kind of same thought of when I was in Europe in the past, where it's like, well, I came here to play and this is what I wanted to do and wanted to achieve. And I didn't do this. I didn't do that. I didn't perform to the ability that I know I could, or I should, or I wish that I would have. And I think I can honestly say I've come a long way in that regard, in terms of dealing with confidence, dealing with a lack of confidence. And I think I just needed to remind myself that I'm not perfect with it, and I don't think I'll ever be perfect with it. And that's kind of the nature of playing this game, and just the nature of, I think, competitive sports in general. I think it's very hard to look at a season from an individual perspective or from a team perspective and say every single game you outperformed the one previous, or every single game you had a good performance. There are going to be games where you dip a little bit and you lull a little bit, and there's going to be games that are worse than others, and there might be ones that are a lot worse than others. And it almost requires you to take a step back and kind of look at the season from a whole picture and recognize that there are going to be ups and downs, and there's going to be, that's why even players at the top level, they speak about kind of runs of form, right? Where maybe you're in a little bit of a poor run of form or a really good run of form. And sometimes those things, you almost can't really correlate them to anything else. Sometimes it's very specific, whether it's the players coming back from an injury or they are dealing with things off the field or dealing even with things on the field that are putting them in difficult positions. It's just something that I think is what any footballer out there deals with. And sometimes it can be as simple as, you have one good game or you score one goal, and then all of a sudden you have some confidence, and boom, that leads you into a good run of form for a couple of games. But the reality is that's kind of the way that your season or your career is going to go. There's going to be ebbs and flows, and unfortunately there's really no player who has a complete good run of form from the start of their career to the end of their career. And everyone's met with setbacks and everyone's met with adversity. And so, as I mentioned there, and kind of talking this through with my family and talking this through with my therapist, like, it was a key for me to learn that that's something that I need to maybe sometimes take a full step back from and understand that my season is going to have ups, it's going to have downs. and trying to mentally bring myself back to a more equilibrium point in whatever situation I'm in, and push forward knowing that, right? The downs are not forever, and they aren't going to stay like that forever. And, same with the highs. And it's not to say you can't enjoy when you have a really good performance or a really good game and big win, you score goals, things like that. You certainly should. But it's not as if to say you've now kind of taken your foot off the gas or become complacent a little bit and said, I've done it once. Now it's a given. I'm going to do it for the rest of the season. You still have to put the work in. And also, too, just to that point, I think I've become much better at understanding that what I do on the field and kind of the footballer that I am is a part of, at times a big part, at times a small part, right? But it's not the whole picture. It doesn't need to define my weeks or my months or me as a person anymore, that what I do on the field and how I perform on the field. So that's still an ever ongoing battle, and it's still a challenge at times, but I think it's important and really necessary for me if I want to continue to have success in this career of the game, is kind of compartmentalizing a little bit to extent, right? Like, any other career out there, I've spoken about this in the past, but any other career out there, there's very few that people associate with as part of their identity. It's just a piece of who they are as a person. It's not how they are identified, right, by their career. And I know there certainly are careers out there where it becomes so all-consuming, and I think that there's definitely a challenge to that. And I think for me, it became healthier to kind of not disassociate from the game, but just allow it to be a part of who I am and not who I am as a whole. So that's been really cool to kind of see that growth over the course of the past couple of years in myself, and know that took place because of the work that I put in. I think all of that being said, it's really been hugely impactful, the club that I've been at, that's allowed me to kind of see that growth as well, I guess, if that makes sense. And because I think, like I said in the beginning episode, when I kind of first got here and spoke a little bit about this club and when they first signed me, is I felt really at home very early on. I felt comfortable in this club, and I still do, even in the difficult moments, and even in the times where things aren't going perfectly. I feel like this is a club that is welcoming, and it's a club that has valued me, whether that be on the pitch or off the pitch, because I've also come into a coaching role with the club as well. So I think it just shows that, like, they see something in me, and they see me as an integral part of the community kind of that they're forming, which is something that I really admire, and something that I love about the game and I love about kind of football clubs like this, is that it tries to foster a community and create a community. It's even something that I try and do with this podcast, right? I try and create a community of people that are interested in the same type of stories, and, want to share them and want to kind of listen to them. So community has always been something that I've been fascinated with and looking to whether create or be a part of. And so it's been nice to be a part of this club where it feels like that, and it feels like home at certain points, especially when you are so far away from your actual home. It makes it that much easier to do something like this, to do something as challenging as, coming across the world and playing. So I've had conversations with people around the club, and they've kind of made me feel that, and even express that at certain points. So I can't express enough how valuable that feels, or how much that makes you kind of relax a little bit, and just enjoy the process, and enjoy all the ups and the downs, as I just kind of mentioned, because you got people that sort of have your back through all of it. So I really am appreciative of the club. I really am appreciative of my experience thus far as a whole. I almost feel like part of too why I'm able to be at a point where I can not put so much pressure on each and every result, each and every performance, is also because I feel like, me coming here and playing and signing and being able to be paid to play the game which is an amazing feeling. It's like so much of my goals and ambitions I've kind of been able to achieve once coming here, and also so much of the things that I kind of had doubts or insecurities about myself over the past couple of years, I've been able to kind of quiet and put to bed with this story. And like I said, it's not perfect, but it's really been a positive step forward for me coming down here, and a positive step forward for me growing as an individual. And so, like I said, when I feel like I have achieved what I've set out to do here, it makes it that much easier for me to kind of go out and be free in the way that I play, because it's almost like anything that I'm able to still achieve beyond what I have already is like kind of icing on the cake. It's extra, and it feels like playing with bonus money, sort of. So I'm really grateful for this experience that I've had thus far, and interested and excited to see kind of what happens over the course of this next bit of the season. I also have my family coming to visit me in a couple weeks. Like at the time of, as I said, at the time of this actually dropping, they may currently be here, or they may have actually just left. I'm not sure exactly what the recording schedule is just yet, but know that is on the cards as well. So that's super exciting. And it's also been such a huge part of always what the dream was for me, right? Is to be able to have them come and even take away the football part of it, is just have them come and be able to experience the new culture and the new place that I'm able to be in, and I'm able to kind of share with them and show them. So that's something that I really can't wait for. And we've been talking about that kind of same idea for a while now, my family and I. So I'm super pumped to have them down here in Australia. Now, with that being said, and this kind of transitions us into the title of this episode, my family is so far away, right? They are, I think I looked at it once, I think it's like 10,000 miles away. And that's a really challenging thing, especially for someone like me who is super, super close with my family. And I feel as though one of the things that makes a footballer successful, but is also one of the hardest things, is the sacrifices that you have to make to kind of pursue a career like this. And I think anyone out there will tell you that's played at any sort of level, that there is a level of sacrifice to be able to do that, right? And whether that's, you're a collegiate athlete in the United States and you have to give up on certain social things that other college students don't have, even if you're a high school student and you're an athlete, and maybe your weekends look a lot different than others who are able to kind of hang out with friends and party and do things like that. Especially if you want to play at any level beyond college, whether it's semi-professional, professional, anything like that. Again, those same types of things of giving up certain social things, also a commitment to your performance, meaning commitment to your body, rehab, working out, lifting, training. It's a huge toll that kind of takes on you as well, physically. And it certainly can be mentally as well. There's a sacrifice that needs to be made there, because it's a difficult thing dealing with a season with so many highs and lows, ups and downs that you have to navigate, especially if you have to travel to play for a team. Like I said, semi-pro or pro, if you need to be away from the people that you care about the most, or your community, your friends, your family, and even if it's in a culture that feels really foreign to you and something that's so new to you. Luckily, Australia is a very similar culture to America, so I feel still more at home. I can speak the same language, and I feel I don't feel quite as isolated as I have at certain other points in my career, but that can be another thing that feels kind of like a sacrifice. That's difficult at times to navigate, and again, there's beauty in it, and there's amazing capability for growth in some of those experiences, which I'm forever grateful for that I've been able to have them. Playing in places like Germany and playing in places like Denmark, where I was so sort of out of my depth in a lot of different ways, but it allowed me to learn so much about the game, about myself, about new cultures, and it forced me to grow up even more, being that far away from the people that I grew up with, my family, and all my friends at home that were back doing other things and moving on kind of with their life. So there's pros and cons to everything, and it's for me that's been like the hardest choice, where I feel almost in a way like I have to kind of choose between, do I want to have that community, right, where it's mom's close by, sisters close by, friends are close, and we can kind of lean on each other for that support and go through things together, and it was always the thing that I loved about being at home was you could, call people up and have people over that night, and whether it's you having dinner or going to see a movie or going on a hike or something or whatever it was, like that's so accessible, and it's all right there, right? When you have that community around you. And sometimes when you go and you move to a new place, like I am here, it takes a while for you to build that community, and it's not impossible to do. It's definitely something that can be done, but it takes time, right? It takes time to form those friendships and those bonds and create that community that you're seeking. And so sometimes it can make you feel a bit impatient and either wanting to have that community come faster, or saying, oh, I miss it, and wanting to go back home where you already know it's there. And so it's always something that I feel like I've had to choose, right? Where it's been, okay, I can kind of pursue the dream, but that means I have to kind of leave that really big piece, that family piece behind. And that was made kind of a really big reality a couple weeks ago of that distance, of that separation. I think honestly that like it's something that I don't know. I don't even know how comfortable I feel really sharing it, but I think it's always been something that I've tried to do on the podcast is be as transparent as I can to a certain extent. I understand that I'm not necessarily a vlogger who is kind of documenting their life and in such an intimate way, but I do know that there are a lot of people who gain value from my story and have also been appreciative of the times when I've been honest and open and transparent in a world of sports where oftentimes it can feel like athletes keep everything sort of close to the vest. And I don't blame athletes for doing that. I understand why, but I want to see if, maybe I can be a small part of changing the narrative and making it that much more acceptable for athletes to just kind of be open and talk about things that are going on in their life, and to not necessarily create a stigma around it. So yeah, like I said, it's hard. It's hard being vulnerable. It's hard kind of sharing things that are more personal, but it's something that I think hopefully can just paint the picture that much more of what it's like to play a sport in another country like this. So basically, about from the time that I'm recording this, about 2 weeks ago, I was just on the phone with my family, my mom and my sister back home, and it's oftentimes just as to kind of remind me of home. My mom will put the camera on my pets. I have a dog and a cat, and just to kind of say hi. And on this particular call, she was mentioning that my dog we have a little Jack Russell Terrier. She's been in the family for years and years and years. She was saying that she was getting really like dizzy and having kind of trouble walking and trouble standing, and it was not something that really occurred for a while. When I left her, she's a little bit of an older dog, but when I left in January, she was, fine, especially for how old she was. She really didn't have any health problems, and her hearing wasn't the best, her vision wasn't the best, but that's a really kind of normal thing with older dogs. And as I said, there was nothing that really would be alarming to this degree. And so she was brought to the vet, and basically there was like, at first it was thought just to be kind of a normal thing, like a little bit of vertigo. Okay, take some nausea medication. All right, it should resolve itself within a little while. And unfortunately it didn't within a couple of days. And so it was very difficult to be so far away, especially as the weeks progressed, and just see kind of how sick she was getting, and how, it eventually hit a certain point where she couldn't really walk straight. Her kind of spine had almost formed into like a C shape, and her head was always tilted, and she couldn't get her balance. She couldn't like find her center kind of. And so it was just like the whole week on the phone a lot. And again, it's, another hard thing about being so far away is also the time difference. Like, I can really only talk to people back home in my morning or my night, because we're basically a complete 12-hour flip. So, for me during my day, my 1 p.m. in the afternoon is everyone's back home's 1 a.m. So, I can't really just call somebody up in the afternoon for me. And so it's like I get these small windows kind of to talk to home, and, obviously too, they have things going on. And, so if I call at 7 p.m. my time, like, people are getting ready for work, people are getting ready for school, that type of thing. So it's not always simple and straightforward to be able to just even communicate with back home. So that, it was just difficult. It was difficult all week to see that kind of transpiring. And then you just, I don't know, you start to think the worst, and you kind of start to spin out a little bit. And then, like, basically by the end of the week, sort of even midway through the week, like, my mom is sort of just taking care of her almost around the clock, and is, barely able to sleep on her own, because my dog is she's getting so restless and kind of can't get comfortable when she sleeps, and is twisting and turning. And then, so my sister came home as well. She was able to get, I think, like the Friday off of work, and came home the Thursday, and just was able to help more. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't know what to do. And there's a feeling of just helplessness that you have when you're sitting on the other side of the world in an apartment by yourself, and all you can do is, talk through FaceTime. So I was able to kind of get through the week somehow. And I think by Saturday, Saturday, which was match day, I was kind of just like, I don't know, I in a daze, sort of. I was just very out of it, and I kind of just knew that in order to go into that game, I kind of had to, I don't know, it was gonna take a lot of sort of disassociation. It was gonna take a really big feat of me just kind of, within this next hour and a half, this next 2 hour block, I need to just really become hyper focused and dialed in and drown out almost any other thought, feeling, or emotion, which is not an easy thing to do as a person. But I just knew it was the only way that I was going to be able to get through the game. And I was able to. And unfortunately, it wasn't the best result for us. I thought I played okay. Wasn't the best result for us. And I just remember like the game ended and I just start like I'm on the field still kind of just like getting emotional and just crying on the field because it just like so much just like pours out of you too, especially after you do something like, playing a match and physically it's really demanding. And, the first thought is I'm just like, and that was kind of the thing towards the end of the week too, is like you're always just so worried, like you want to get back to your phone because you don't know if like there's going to be an awful text to read or, a call that you missed or something like that. So I kind of just like tried to cover my head as best I could and get into the locker room and just, it was still kind of everything was the same back at home. My family actually stayed up to watch the game and they just kind of said good game. And then I wanted to let them sleep a little bit more because the games for us are 3 p.m., which is 3 a.m. for them. So, let them kind of go back to sleep for a little bit and catch what sleep they could. And then, yeah, I got home and I was just like a wreck, like, because you saw the state that she was in, you saw kind of state that my family was into, and just trying to like take care of her. And obviously, they're so emotional and upset, and so I kind of was like, do I need to get on a plane? Like, do I like should I come home right now? It was something I had kind of been talking through all week, and because for me, I'm sure there might be people out there that are questioning like it's a dog or a pet or whatever. Like it's for me, my dog is part of my family. My dog feels like home to me. It's not just a dog. It never is just a dog. So I'll just you know kind of clear that out of the way right now. And so basically, like that Saturday night, she just really wasn't doing well. They were trying to give her, I mean, she hadn't eaten in like 2 days, trying to give her like water basically through like an eyedropper because she couldn't drink on her own. And the medicine that they were giving her to kind of calm her down, she was really not liking and was kind of fighting back against it. And yeah, so it was just like an impossible decision basically because I was like, I can't, I was really struggling here. I was like, I can't just sit here. I can't just sit back and watch. I can't just sit from an apartment on the other side of the world and, potentially have to say goodbye or that type of thing with like, I can't do it through a phone. I remember just saying that over and over. And it's hard because, like I'm trying to get my mom and sister's input as well. And they're kind of like, well, I don't know, like they're worried like what if I'm up in the air and that's and then I miss saying goodbye altogether because I'm not able to talk on the phone when I'm up there. And I just I just I don't know. I kind of got to the point where I was like, all right, that's a risk that I'm willing to take, like because I can't, at least if I try, I'll know that I did everything in my power to try and get home and be there. And there I've got a layover that I have to have in Qatar. Like it's only going to be certain hours in time. I'm also kind of going traveling back in time, going back west, back towards the States, like all these things where I'm just like, basically, I need to go. And so, as I said, the game was 3 p.m., so I'll probably get home around 6, 7. I'm on the phone till maybe like 8:39, and then I booked a ticket that night. I called my coaches and stuff here and was like, "Hey, listen, like I kind of, I have an emergency and I'm going. I need to go." And I had something booked by like 9. My flight, I think, left at 11. So like I booked it, got right in an Uber, got to the airport at like 10, and was on a plane, right after playing a full game too, which probably wasn't the best for the legs and stuff. So I left that Saturday night, and I got back to the States, back home on Sunday night, and yeah, unfortunately, I basically had to come home, straight home, and I got to kind of lay with her for a little while and say goodbye to her. And then we brought her to the vet. Yeah, and then yeah, like I said, I just got to kind of say goodbye. I got to hold her, and now know that she's not kind of in that same pain, not struggling anymore, not hurting anymore. So she was one of my best friends. Like I said, she always was she was synonymous with home. It was like whenever I thought about home, it was, sure, it's the house and all that, but it's, she feels just like a part of that. She feels like a piece of that. And as awful as it was, and as awful as I felt, as awful as I, clearly still feel right now, I'm really grateful that I was able to be home for it. I'm really glad that I was able to make it home in time and that I made that decision to go. And yeah, that's something that I'll remember forever. And I just kind of realized, like, like, as I've kind of alluded to in this episode in the beginning, there's always going to be more games. There's always going to be more seasons. There's always going to be, like, football never stops, and that clock never stops ticking. But that was that's a moment that you can't ever get back, and you can't ever. If I experienced it through a FaceTime, there's no other opportunity to have it again in person. And so I was like, I kind of just realized, I understood. I was like, if I go and I come back and I never step foot on the field again, I never play another match for the team, like, I'm willing to make that choice because of how much this means to me and how much I need to be there. Yeah, so it was I was home for only really like 4 days. I wound up flying back on the Wednesday. So like over the course of the week, I don't know how many hours of travel it was, but it was insane, just like flying back and forth, so many different time zones and stuff. Yeah, it was just a really, really sad week, a really difficult week. And, still even now being back, it's not all fixed. It's not all healed. And it probably won't ever be, but, yeah, I guess that's why, I titled this the hardest episode that I've recorded thus far, my least favorite, whatever you want to call it. Because that is what's really difficult about doing something like this is I wasn't able to be there for any of the time to help take care of her, to help my family take care of her. I wasn't able to help with any of that. I kind of sat here and just all you can do is provide your support, but it feels like nothing at the time. And to then go home and really only have that small window and then actually have to say goodbye right away. And it sucks, man. It sucks. And then too, like leaving so shortly after, you just feel like, I don't know, you feel guilty that you're kind of having to move on so quickly, and also like kind of leaving people behind to kind of deal with it on their own. And yeah, I don't know, man. It was like, it just fucking sucks. It was kind of one of those moments where, I've had happiness while coming here and playing again, but it was just one of those moments where I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I halfway around the world? Like, when the thing that's like the most important to me is so far away. And like, it's like in that moment you kind of think like, I don't even care. I don't even care about this game. I don't even care about this game that I've been chasing for so long. It was like a real moment where I was like, do I want to keep doing this? And I don't say that like in a reactionary way. I felt like over the course of the past couple of years, and I think like any footballer, like, I mean, even listen to the ones who I've had on that have retired or that are in a stage where they're close to it. It's like there's so many times where you think about giving it up, where you think about being done, where you think about moving on to something else, and there's countless reasons for that. And I think this was one that felt like a real like big one. And I don't know. I don't know. Again, it's weird kind of sharing all this. It's weird like being like very vulnerable, and I'm not like making any sort of decision right now, but I don't know. I guess I'm just talking out loud because hopefully it can help somebody else out there who might be going through something similar or has gone through something similar. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely here for the season and hoping to help the team in any way that I can, and continue to have this experience that I've had here in Australia. But that was just, yeah, a really difficult time in the journey so far. Still is very difficult even today. And so I just felt like it was kind of worthwhile to share it with you guys and to share it with those of you who have supported me. And again, maybe if I can help support you in some way by sharing this, then all the better. It's a beautiful thing that I get to do, that I get to play a game that I've played for however long, but it definitely comes with its drawbacks, like with anything. And this was just a moment where it was kind of glaring to me, where it's like, man, this is hard to see the beauty in the dream right now. It's hard to see the beauty in playing the game when it feels like there's just this other thing that kind of is just so much more important. And I think that is one thing I'll say, I guess, to maybe kind of wrap it here, is like, I think that is an important thing to remember in all of this, is like, yes, the game is incredible, and the game is a really beautiful thing, but I think for me, what I've always realized is like, it's been about the people for me. And I think it's really important to remember that there are things that are bigger than football out there, and there's things that are bigger than the game. And, I'm sure for a lot of people it's their family, and I'm sure, a lot of people can resonate with what I'm saying. But yeah, I would just, encourage people to kind of remember that, and that there are things out there, there are people out there that are just more important than, whatever happens on the Saturday or Sunday when you go out there and you kick a ball. So that was oh, if you stuck around for this episode, I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to me. Like I said, it's not necessarily the easiest thing for me to come on to a platform like this and share. It's definitely not something I can say that I enjoy doing, and just I enjoy sharing my story. I enjoy sharing my journey, but it's like, there's just certain things where it feels like you kind of want to keep those just for you and keep those in your heart. And then I guess, like I just felt maybe sharing this could kind of paint the picture that much more and help people who may be in need of it. So if that did that for any of you, I would encourage you to reach out, whether it's comment on the episode, or shoot us a message, shoot us a follow in a DM on Instagram or TikTok or something like that. Because I always do appreciate when you guys reach out and show your support for the show and for my journey. So definitely would encourage you to, kind of go and follow along and share any of your thoughts, or maybe share, kind of your story as well in the 11 pod on any of those platforms, or, find us on YouTube as well in the 11 podcast. I don't know. I feel it's kind of draining, so I don't know if I've got anything else for you right now at the moment. There's more episodes coming out, some more guests, and some cool stories. I'm sure I'll do another 1 or 2 episodes about my time here in Australia. And if you want more of that, more of those episodes as well, don't hesitate to reach out and ask for those too. We can always do more. But yeah, thank you guys for your support. Thank you guys for continuing to listen. I really appreciate it. I hope to see you in future episodes and still supporting the show as we go along here. So thank you. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.